people, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's see, we are absent trustees Stevens and Butts and Cook. But we still have enough for a quorum, so we will proceed. Life is hard. Number 2, additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda. I do want to add under number 8, I do have a report briefly that I would like to give.
And in new business, I'd like to request a line item adjustment to the appropriations and public works.
All right. I would like to move that we go on with the agenda as amended.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Consent agenda. Approved Board of Trustees minutes for June 21st, 2016. Bringing to the record the approved Planning Commission minutes for June 14th, 2016. And approved bills payable run from June 21st to July 5th in the amount of $4,437.50. Would any board member like to pull any item out for discussion? Seeing none, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Number 4, new business. Item A, 2015 audit, Stockman Cast Iron Company.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Steve Hoxtetter. I'm one of the partners with the firm Stockman Cast Iron Company, the firm that you engaged to perform your annual audit. This is our second year of performing the audit, so we appreciate the opportunity. I am going to walk you through one of the letter reports. The letter report, it's not titled, but on the first page, about a third of the way down, it says significant audit findings. This letter is a letter that looks like this. It's a letter that we refer to as a governance letter. That is communications that as your auditors we're required to have with those charged with governance, which is obviously the board. And all the communications in this letter, I would describe as either generally being positive in nature or neutral in nature. So I'm walking through the key ones here. The first paragraph is just an introductory paragraph stating this letter is being issued in connection with the performance of the audit. Under significant audit findings, the first paragraph deals with your accounting policies. And the key communication is at the tail end of the second line, where it starts out, NOE accounting policies were adopted, and the application of existing policies was not changed during 2015. Simply means you're accounting for your assets and liabilities, revenues and expenses in a consistent manner from year to year. So your financial information, when you're comparing it from one year to another, it's accounted for in a similar manner to make it very, very comparative. The next paragraph deals with accounting estimates. And the preparation of most financial statements does involve certain estimates. Some tend to be more sensitive than others. In the middle of that paragraph, we outline what we believe are the most sensitive estimates. It's the allowance for doubtful accounts and estimated useful life of your capital assets. As part of our audit, we do evaluate the key factors that go into establishing those estimates and felt they're reasonable in relationship to the financial statements taken as a whole. The next section, difficulties encountered in performing the audit. We had no significant difficulties dealing with management and performing and completing our audit. At the top of page 2, corrected and uncorrected misstatements. Sometimes during an audit, the auditors will propose adjustments as part of the audit. And there were adjustments that we did propose, and they were corrected by management. And we outlined the 3 ones that were specifically proposed as a result of audit procedures. There were additional adjustments that were made that were early on in the audit process. They're a result of communications that we had with management, but they were not specifically what we would deem as part of the audit process. Disagreements with management, we're required to communicate any disagreements, whether they're resolved or left unresolved, and we had no such disagreements. As part of our audit, we do obtain certain representations from management in writing, and we will do that now that we're near the completion of the audit. Consultations with other independent accountants, some organizations will engage in what's referred to as opinion shopping, and that happens when they're concerned that their auditors may not express the opinion that they want on the financial statements. We're not aware of any such consultations with other accountants. Other audit findings or issues. From time to time, we do have various discussions with management, and we felt they were all in the normal course of our professional relationship. And then finally, within the draft of the audit report itself, there is some supplemental information. And that supplemental information is compared and reconciled to the underlying accounting records used to prepare the financial statements themselves. So that's the governance letter. As I said, I think the communications are generally positive in nature. Josh Chesbrough is one of our senior audit managers, was an individual who was primarily responsible for overseeing the audit. He will walk you through the draft of the audit report and then the internal control letters.
Good evening. The document, the first one that I'd like to go through is the thicker document that you have in front of you there. The title page is Town of Green Mountain Falls. And this is the financial statements and other supplemental information that the town is including in their financial statements. Going to the first page, out of this packet, really these two pages, page 1 and page 2, is the auditor's document, our auditor's part of this document. The remainder of this document is the town's. It's the town's financial statements. We do assist in preparing the financial statements, however, these are ultimately the responsibility of the town. And the town, by engaging us, has also agreed that they're taking full responsibility for that. Just to run through this a little bit, independent auditor's report. This is essentially the same level of opinion that a large Fortune 500 type of company would receive, obviously catered towards a government. But just to run through this, the first paragraph that's titled there, management's responsibility for the financial statements. This just discusses what management's responsibility in relation to the financial statement is. Coming down to the next bold heading there, auditor's responsibility. Our responsibility is to express opinions on these financial statements based on our audit. So we perform our audit based on standards that are generally accepted in the United States of America. Like I said, it's the same type of auditing that would be done for a large Fortune 500 company. The next page is really the crux of the work we've performed, and that's our opinion. This opinion is the clean or unmodified opinion, and it states that the financial statements as presented in this document in all material respects are correct in all material respects. The next paragraph there, the report on required supplemental information, that just goes through under generally accepted governmental accounting principles. There's some required information that needs to be included, and this just discusses that required information and our procedures related to that. The next section in the audited financial statements is what's called the management's discussion and analysis. That discussion and analysis goes into a bit more details, comparing the statements from year to year, and also discusses budget and those amounts. But I want to turn to page 8. Page 8 is the first of the basic financial statements, and this is a statement of net position. And the statement of net position breaks out the financial statements into an economic resource and measurement. So this is more typical to a company's financial statement. It's the full accrual basis of accounting. It includes all long-term economic assets and liabilities. As of 12/31/15, the town had about 1.6 million of assets, about $16,000 of liabilities, deferred inflows, which is property taxes to be coming in the following year of $153,000, and it has net position of $1.4 million. Of this net position, about $1.3 million is invested in capital assets. There's a restricted portion of $34,000 and an unrestricted of $135,000. The next statement is the statement of activities. This statement, the top section, takes the program activities and functions of the government and shows them as expenditures for the government, and then details out the program revenue related to those expenses. The net program expense for the year was $429,000. There were general revenues, which include taxes and other various income, of $419,000. And then there was a remaining revenue recognized of $86,000 related to town hall grants, for a change in net position of an increase of about $76,000. The next statement is the balance sheet of the government fund. This statement looks primarily at the current financial resources. This is more typically what a government would look at on a day-to-day basis. It focuses more on the current financial resources that are available for the current year. Under this basis of accounting, there's $329,000 of assets, $7,000 of liabilities, $153,000 of deferred inflows, and a net fund balance of $169,000. The next page is a reconciliation, without going into details of it, which reconciles the fund financial statements to the government-wide activities or government-wide net position of the town. Page 12 is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. This statement is also on the fund basis of financial reporting, and it reports a net change in the fund balance of approximately $100,000. And then on the next page is once again that reconciliation to get to the government-wide activities for the year. The following pages are the footnotes to the financial statements, which describe in more detail certain items. Footnote number 1 is a standard footnote for all entities, and this describes the significant accounting policies. It's just a summary. It doesn't go into detail with all the different policies, but this one footnote, not a significant change from year to year, from last year to this year, I should say. As Steve discussed, the letter to those charged with governance, the town hasn't adopted any new specific accounting policies or changed those, so I won't go into much on that. Page 18 starts footnote 2. Footnote 2 details a little bit more on the reconciliation between the fund basis of accounting to the government-wide. Page 19 has footnote 3, which talks about stewardship, compliance, and accountability. Footnote 4 is a footnote that details out the different deposits and balances of the town. That continues on to page 21. Page 21, there's the footnote that discusses the capital asset that the town holds. Footnote 6, deferred compensation, talks a little bit about the deferred compensation plan available to employees of the town. Footnote 7 discusses some capital leases that the town has. Footnote 8 is the statement on net position, and what this does is this just breaks out and discusses a little bit more a few of the some of the more specific items, talks about how the net investment in capital assets is calculated. Also breaks out and discusses the emergency reserve for Tabor, which is $17,000, and then also talks about the amount that's restricted for conservation trust funds of $16,000, And that's what makes up the total of 34,000 on the face of the financial statements for restricted. Note 9 discusses the revenues that were recognized related to the final payments of grants from DOLA. Footnote 10 is a standard footnote discussing risk management. Footnote 11 discusses Tabor and the 2 amendments that the town has adopted specifically related to Tabor. And then the last page, page 25, is just the summary, or the schedule of revenues, expenditures, changes in fund balance, comparing the budget and actual activities for the year ended December 31st, 2015. Any questions on the financial statements before I move on to the last document? Okay. The last document that you have from us is the internal control comment letter. It's not titled, but the first paragraph starts off in planning and performing our audit of the financial statements. Essentially what we do, and all auditors do in regards to planning and performing the audit, we have to assess internal controls, because that's how we determine the nature of the procedures that we're going to perform and the level of work we're going to do. So that in the middle part of that first paragraph, it kind of states that we consider the town's internal control over financial reporting as a basis for designing audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances. And then to describe just these two, there's 2 standard weaknesses that we are required to report. The first of those is a material weakness. And in the middle of that third paragraph, it describes what a material weakness is. A material weakness is a deficiency or a combination of deficiencies in internal control, such that there's a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement of the entity's financial statements will not be prevented or detected and corrected on a timely basis. So that's a material weakness. A significant deficiency, sometimes when you look at the titles for those 2, significant deficiency seems more, but is actually under our professional standards, it's a lesser degree. And then the next paragraph describes that. It says, a significant deficiency is less severe than a material weakness, yet important enough to merit attention by those charged with governance. And then to go into the different comments we have in this letter, list out the material weaknesses first. And the first one of those is financial statement preparation. Under our professional auditing standards, control deficiency will exist in an organization that does not have an employee with knowledge of generally accepted accounting principles sufficient to accurately prepare financial statements, including the related footnotes, in accordance with GAAP. Many smaller towns, entities such as the town, typically won't have someone with that level of expertise. There's just various reasons for that. One of the biggest just being that it's cost prohibitive for the town to hire someone with that level of expertise. The next page, segregation of duties. The basic premise of segregation of duties is that no one employee should have access to both physical assets and those related accounting records. We do understand that smaller organizations, entities such as the town, do have limitations on the segregation of duties that they can implement. Just to go through these, there were 3 different items that we noted. One of the most effective mitigating controls that can be implemented is a close review of the financial statements by the trustees. And it was our understanding that the board wasn't receiving what we believe to be sufficient information to be able to monitor those financial statements during the year ended December 31st, 2015. The next one, the town clerk has had access to the bank accounts, was a signer on the accounts, and had access to the receipt of funds, recording of revenues, and also recorded revenues and expenditures, and then also was responsible for preparing the bank reconciliation. And then bank reconciliations weren't being reviewed by a second person. The next comment is related to payroll. Payroll has been prepared and submitted to the payroll processing company by the town clerk. And our recommendation there is that, another individual review that before that actually is submitted. We did note that the town is taking certain measures to mitigate these controls. And near the end of 2015, we did note that the town clerk no longer has access to the bank accounts, which substantially restricts access to those assets. And the town has also implemented a policy to have timesheets approved before payroll is paid. Under significant deficiencies, the first deficiency is related to salary documentation. Pay rate approvals were not being documented for employees of the town. And we just recommend that the town implement this and make sure that's appropriately documented. Next one related to capital assets. There were certain issues related to the tracking of capital assets during the year. Specifically, depreciation wasn't being calculated and tracked. And there was also different errors in that spreadsheet, and we just recommend that the town maintain that detail of capital assets and be monitoring that. The next and last significant deficiency relates to journal entry documentation. Not all journal entries we examined had supporting documentation, and there wasn't any documentation of review of the journal entries. We recommend that the town does evaluate this and implement procedures to ensure that there's always documentation for all journal entries, and if possible, that those journal entries also be reviewed by a second individual, other than the one who's posted them. The next three comments are other control deficiencies. They don't fall under significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. First one is just related to employee policies. Currently, the town doesn't have approved policies related to vacation. We just recommend that they implement that. Next one, computer security, various items under there. We've heard you've got a great IT expert on the board, so I'm sure you can help implement that. And then information technology disaster recovery, just essentially that the town have a documented written disaster recovery. And so that is our communication with internal control items. Does the board have any questions related to?
How did you ascertain that there's no employee policies?
Inquiries of management.
Because that's not accurate, if you have approved policies in place.
For which one are you?
The employee policies, you patently say the town currently does not have approved employee policies. We do.
Does the town have a documented vacation policy? Okay,
It's in the employee guidelines.
okay.
It was approved, reapproved. Was that last year or something? I'd have to look at the approval dates, but I mean, each iteration are reapprovals and changes to them, so we've never been without, and this implies that there are none.
Okay. Could we get a policy, got a copy of that, please?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Kurt, do you have any further comments? Well, seeing none. No, yes? All right, thank you.
I do just want to state I really appreciate the assistance that was provided this year. And I know audits require a lot, and we really appreciate being able to work with Renee and the board members we work with. Thanks.
Thank you. Mackie?
Will there be hard copies of these entire documents available to the public?
Right now, what we have is the draft version. And so I assume what we'll have available to everybody will be the final version. Because right now,
And when will that be
draft.
finalized?
We have a few administrative things to finish up, but it's near completion.
So, at the net, will it be available at the next meeting in 2 weeks?
Most likely.
Thank you.
So we had a email back and forth about the fees, and I apologize for running late. I'm not sure if that was taken care of before the meeting.
No, it really wasn't
Okay,
discussed before the meeting.
all right. So, once again, I apologize for being late and having this in public, but, so the fees that y'all came through is, were around $11,000.
Correct.
Is that
That's correct.
correct? And the quoted, at the beginning was $8,000 to $10,000 if the books were in good condition and you got cooperation from the town.
Right.
So which judging by what was just presented, sounds like that was the case.
Not entirely. We did have, there wasn't an issue with cooperation.
Yeah.
And the audit, without question, went much, much better than the prior year.
Right.
And if you want to use like a point of reference,
Right.
Last year we incurred fees of $28,000 and billed you approximately $21,000. This year we incurred fees of $13,000. That proposed bill in 11. So clearly, when you compare the 11 to the 28, without question, the audit went much better. There were, as we pointed out, there were adjustments. There was documentation that wasn't readily available, depreciation schedules. Prior to, I alluded to this in going to the governance letter, prior to really commencing the audit, when we received the trial balance, it was apparent that the trial balance really wasn't, we could have started with it. Had we started with it, we would have incurred significant more time. But instead, Josh and one of our staff members, went through it and made recommendations to really bring it to a starting point.
So I'm not accounting by any means, but if y'all did the audit last year, why wouldn't you have the starting balance? Since you finished up, so.
So the starting balance, when I said starting balance, what I mean is an accurate December 31st, 2015 trial balance. We did the audit for the year ended December 31st, 2014. To get to the end of 2015, all of the accounting that the town does internally it's done internally. It's not something we would have.
So now that this audit's done, and I apologize, I'm not an accountant. So now that this audit's done, do we have a starting balance for 2016?
Absolutely, yes.
All right, so we have it now, why wouldn't we have had it for?
Well, when I say starting balance, what I mean by starting balance for the audit is really the ending, your ending 2015 balances.
Is
We're
that is the
talking
same thing, isn't it? Ending balance and starting balance are the same thing?
So trustee Butts, so what we're talking about is getting a trial balance, which includes all the balances and activities for the year ended December 31st, 2015. And that's what we start with.
Mhm.
However, we also do take that from the actual balances from last year. And then but what we start with for our audit this year is the trial balance, what we call the trial balance, which includes essentially all of the detailed GL account balances and activities. And we did have that, however, that needed some work done on it before we could even start with that.
Cindy, go ahead.
Can we interject?
And just for this is Cindy, she's been a big help in the emails that we went back and forth. Cindy was the person I was referring to. Instrumental.
The main issue with the trial balance was that the audit adjustments from the 2014 needed to be reversed in 2015, but we didn't know that until you told us. So I don't feel that that big issue with the trial balance, there was no way we could have known. I've done audits before, and some entries need to be reversed the next year, but often they don't. So when Renee had the entries that turned out weren't done, when she did them, we didn't know they needed to be reversed.
I guess I would respectfully suggest that the accounting staff should know that. And that's just, it's the auditor's responsibility to perform the audit of the books and records. It's management's responsibility to provide accurate accounting records to initiate the audit. Kind of, when you look at the audit report, the first paragraph is ultimately management is responsible for the financial statements.
I would
The
agree.
auditor's responsibility is to express an opinion on those financial statements. In a clean audit, auditors come in and there's no audit adjustments. That's very common. When there are audit adjustments, it's an indication of weaknesses in the account. And it occurs, but audit adjustments are the result of errors.
The only
And I
other
just
thing,
say respectfully, not.
I appreciate that.
so the only other thing that I'm questioning, and it's just because of what I've read, and maybe I'm misreading it, is in the letter that the mayor and I did sign in regards to the audit taking place and in the fees, there's a paragraph that states that our fees for these services will be at our standard hourly rate plus out-of-pocket costs such as report reproduction, word processing, postage, blah, 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 including expenses will not exceed $10,000. This fee estimate assumes the books are in good condition, that we receive the customary level of assertions, and that you are fully prepared for the audit at the commencement of the scheduled field work. If significant additional time is necessary, we will discuss it with you. So that was not discussed, if there was going to be additional time spent or cost incurred.
So one of the things when we were coming into this audit is we did have a little bit of concern about spending substantial time. And I did want to, in my communications with the town, want to clearly lay out, where we think we're going with the audit. And so it was my intention in my communications to clearly communicate that. And the final communication, which is the legal agreement between us, the first part of that paragraph clearly states that our fees will be billed at our standard hourly rates. We are attempting to work well with the town and to have goodwill with the town. And we've incurred costs of $13,000. We're going to write off $2,000 of those costs. And to bring it down, it is, and so that's kind of where we're at. But it was fully our intention to not enter into an agreement without a clear understanding of what it was gonna take. Our expectation was the $10,000, and without going into more detail here and there, we incurred 13, and we're gonna write off. As long as, I'm gonna make the final call.
We're proposing.
I'm twisting Steve's arm.
And that's what it proposes, is billing an extra 1,000 and above the 10. And that right off 2.
Well, thank you for your clarity, I was just.
That's a good question. So.
All right, board, any further discussion? All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I would really like to thank all the board that worked on this, and Cindy and Renee. I know this has been above and beyond in a lot of ways, and it's taken a lot of time, and we really appreciate all your work on it.
Well, before you go any further, I want the town to know that you should be indebted to Cindy Tompkins for her assistance and her help with me with this, for my lack of knowledge of certain things that she is well versed in, being a town clerk, that I did appreciate her tremendously for her help and her kindness during me learning an immense amount of information in a short period of time. So you owe a debt of gratitude to this woman.
Thank you so much, so much. And can I just say, depreciation, okay, that's all.
If I might inquire, is the experience that you've seen with Fremantle Falls in this particular auditor similar to what you've experienced with other auditors?
Some things honestly are similar. The couple, the significant deficiencies or the material with, segregation of duties and is same that I go through. Other things are different. The adjustments that they put in the audit about those are not significant in my auditor's opinion. So honestly, Renee did a heck of a job because they didn't have any other adjustments. So I think it was a little more strict, a little more focused on stuff that my auditors have focused on differently.
So this is a scary question since I don't know the answer, but can I ask how much y'all paid last year for your audit?
This year I just completed it and we paid $5,000.
Could I ask, I guess I'm having trouble reconciling the fact that we're through the 6th month of 2016 and we still don't know where we were or where we were at the end of 2015 or where we were at the beginning of 2016. It's hard to wrap your mind around the fact that that year was over 6 months ago, and we still don't know what the ending balance was and what the beginning balance was at the beginning of this year. Hard to understand that.
Right, and I agree, and I believe that's, at least how I read it, some of the deficiencies that we have, especially with getting accounts every month. Now we've moved to, we're getting them quarterly, and our goal is to getting them every month as we've seen and as they recommend that we should do. And I think that will clear up a lot of the question marks that are out there for all of us. So they did point out some deficiencies we have, and I think by and large, we are making steps to correct most, if not 100%, we're correcting most of them as much as we can.
Well, you made a specific comment about the policies that had to do with salaries and benefits and vacation time and was not aware that the town had policies.
And that's,
that what concerns me there is that, first of all, he didn't know that we have policies in place. And it concerns me that, my note was, those policies need to be implemented to be effective.
and we
so-
have had them, when we were on the board before, and I think we just need to revisit and make sure all of us and the employees are all still on the same page, that everything's up to date. And I think that may be where we're falling down is maybe we have different versions out there and we need to make sure we're all on the same page.
And I'll go on and say, Mac, that part of it could be my lack of knowledge as to what we have and what we don't have coming into this.
Well, but, these folks this is their second go round. They should have a clue about what goes on here.
Yeah, I am not in disagreement with that at all.
Yeah, and I think that's one that we're gonna get back up to speed before we see the auditors come around again, and I would suggest that, we should put the audit out to bid. It's a good practice, and I think we definitely need to do that. All right. Item B is the short-term rental survey. It's purely informational. It was information that was gathered by Planning Commission. Willie Alexander, I think, put that together. And it's just to look at as we go further with short-term rentals. I doubt if you've had a chance to look at it yet, but we're just gonna make sure all the information gets out there. Does anyone have any comments on that? Item C, line item adjustment.
So that's the fun thing about budgets, as soon as you set it in stone, something changes. We've got two needs that Michael has brought to me within Public Works to meet some needs. We had for the chemical application season coming up, the summer chemical application coming up, July 15th. A lot of prep work is going in. Jim's been hired because it is a two-man job to get the prep work done for that. But the water truck we had lined up at no cost is no longer available to us. So there are rentals available. And I'm proposing that we take $2,400 of road and street materials budget to reallocate to equipment rental so that we can apply those materials in the best way possible.
And we have the sufficient
We
funds to do
do,
that?
yes. It could potentially cut into our third application in the fall, but we want to make sure this one is successful. So I guess that's my motion, is to move $2,400 as a line item adjustment to remove from road and street materials and add to Public Works equipment rental.
Second.
Board, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Second item in line items for Public Works, Michael has not received as hardly any applications. We've been, for the opening that was approved to post, so we don't even have candidates to review at this point. We've been focused on the freebie sites, and that's not bringing in the applicants. So we really need to go to some paid job postings, and we don't have a job search budget in Public Works. We've been focused on the other two departments. So I moved to reduce part-time salaries in Public Works by $250 to create a $250 job search budget.
I would second that. Board, any further discussion? All those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Is there a job description?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, Mac,
Could I suggest, and we implemented this years back, we have two high schools, one at the bottom of the pass and one halfway up. I can't imagine that there aren't a couple of high school kids who aren't looking for some outside work in the summer where they could get 10 or 12 bucks an hour. I thought that the high school folks that we hired in the past worked out quite well. And there's no reason why we couldn't continue that. So obviously it's only temporary.
and I think that's one good thing about them, it's just right now in the middle of the summer season, we're having a hard time tracking them down. A lot of them are employed or don't want to be employed. Jim?
Community service, we used quite a bit in the past. It didn't cost anything except supervision.
Yeah, and it's a matter of if Michael wants to supervise community service. You wanna,
We can discuss it.
okay, we'll broach that subject with him.
Is community service entertaining with the County and that stuff?
I know if you still pass on the past, I don't know. I'll tell him. Yeah, Jim?
I'm not sure, but I think you get a choice of where you want to do your service at.
Okay. Mike?
Gotta get a PUI and find out.
There's a website I'm getting every day on, it's called Lime Rock, and it has ads for doing public work and things like that, not public service, but you might want to look into that one. And matter of fact, it says it has jobs in Green Mountain Falls. So, an auditor, obviously, or oddly enough. So, I'll get you a copy of that or get it to Renee. You can post it there. It is free also.
Thank you.
Free's always good, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Seeing no further discussion on this, We will recess our regular meeting at 7:46 and open a workshop to discuss the possible 2% lodging tax increase to be put on the November ballot. Now, this discussion is almost less about should we or shouldn't we, it's more about putting it on the ballot. Because anything that is a tax increase, which this would be, by Tabor laws, says that it has to go before a vote of the people. So, with that being said, there's a couple of things to address. Should we or shouldn't we, should we put it on the ballot for everyone who lives here to vote on? Renee, what does that cost?
It was a broad range that she gave, it was between 300 and 600.
Okay.
So
that would be the cost to the town for it to be put on the ballot with El Paso County. That saves us from having special election costs, and then it gets mailed to El Paso County voters. So this is public workshop, so.
Board, in your packet, I enclosed a letter from El Paso County that we received in the mail today with the first date, timeline date that you have to meet of July 29th. They talk about entering into an IGA once it's determined which political jurisdiction will be participating in the election. The date given for the IGA to be mailed is August 5th, and it'll include an estimate of the jurisdiction's portion of the cost.
We have to sign up by July
29.
2016.
But that gives us time to have a workshop now and have a vote to put on the agenda at our next meeting of the 19th.
I know I get an argument from David from this, but that 2% is a fee that gets tacked on to short-term rentals. It doesn't cost the residents a dime. And frankly,
It doesn't cost the property managers a dime either, it comes from the guest.
correct. So, you know, for all intents and purposes, it's a win-win situation. The only ones who are spending any more money are tourists. And I don't see that as not beneficial to Green Mountain Falls. It's considerably less than many resort communities charge, and frankly, if you go to Breckenridge, I think it's 11 or 12% Breckenridge. In Telluride, it's 15. And I know we don't have a ski area, but I don't think we should sell Green Mountain Falls short. I don't know if anybody was out yesterday driving around, but Green Mountain Falls was packed. There's no reason why we shouldn't cash in on it.
Well, I tell you what I think is gonna happen. It's gonna go up, if we agree on the fact that it goes up before the favor and goes on the ballot. I think what's gonna happen is that anybody, and it's just a matter of principle, they say, oh, tax increase, no. It's just too bad that the town couldn't vote this 2% on our own, but I think when everybody sees tax increase, they're gonna say no.
Well,
So how do you convince
Are you talking about voters saying no or residents?
voters? Residents vote, yeah, who else is gonna vote on it? It's resident voters.
Okay,
They're
well,
gonna say no.
I think you ought to give them a crack at it.
Well, and I think
I
that's.
agree, and I agree with you,
I-
but how do you go, if you wanna get it passed, how do we go out and sell it?
Well, I don't know that, I guess we're in the board is in the business of selling the tax. And I'm sure there's gonna be more than one person in Green Mountain Falls who's gonna be against it. But, you know, in most elections, when there's an issue, there's a pro and a con that comes out with the ballots.
Knowing what I know, that I know as a property manager, I came here not as a property manager, but I came here as a board of trustee, then I know that people who have the vote will think it's a tax for them. because they may not understand.
Well, I think that it's incumbent on the
As
board
a
to
pro-
inform them that it's not on them.
As a property manager, I know it isn't. I know where it's coming from, and I know who's paying for it. It's not coming out of my pocket, it's not coming out of the owners of the houses' pockets. It's coming from the guests. But now the next question is, what are we offering in this town to increase that lodging tax 2%? It's been brought up before, Mac, because
I
there's not that much in town. We don't have that much in town.
I think that's the reason people come here. It's
It's
because there's not that much. There's plenty of trails to hike on, you can fish in the lake, you can take your dog for it, do whatever you want, and you're closer to everything else. But you don't have to deal with Woodland Park, you don't have to deal with Cripple Creek, you don't have to deal with shoulder to shoulder, tourist Breckenridge.
You're not talking about that significant an increase on the 34 vacation rentals that we have. Where the increase would come in is when you have places like the Lakeside Cottages, the old Outlook Lodge, you have places like, what Columbine Inn is gonna be opening up and running pretty soon. Those people will be paying more of a 2% lodging tax. And again, nothing affects them, it's just what the guests are gonna be paying.
Right.
So I just wanna make sure that you know that whoever's voting on this isn't aware of that.
But if the measure is presented in the respect that it doesn't cost the residents anything, then that's, I don't know, that kind of makes sense. So.
Yeah, but do they know, but how will they know that? How do we get that out?
The guests at the Columbine are not gonna get a chance to vote on this, just the residents of Green Mountain Falls.
I mean, I'll vote yes, but I'm just saying,
Yeah,
how do you?
David, it has to be sold,
Yeah, well, how do you? how do
You have
get
to
out
inform the
That's what
public.
I'm saying.
just what's been said here, we have to inform the public.
And that's one fortunate thing with Colorado voter laws is they have to be written in plain English.
Right.
There's not a lot of
That's
back
fine.
speak now, and I think that's very fortunate. Cameron, can you address some of that with the,
Well, David brought it up in terms of what are the people getting, what are we getting out of the money? And Dick, as a
Yeah,
sitting member of the planning
I'd like
commission,
to
could
inform
you
the
present
board
the
of what
recommendation?
took place at the planning commission level. We started discussing this in November during our STR workshops. We learned a lot, not only from the public that attended our planning commission workshops, from STR owners, from lodging owners, from concerned citizens. We found out it wasn't just a slam dunk. There is some strong opposition. What we found is a lot of people were uninformed. It might be useful for you to know that there are a lot of other, if you look outside of our city limits, a lot of other initiatives that are taking place right now to raise lodging taxes in other communities. Woodland Park already has 5.7%. Manitou Springs has 2%, but there's been rumbles down there to revisit that. Cripple Creek has already had 2 workshops in their town council, city council, to study a proposed 6% lodging.
Woodland Park's
Cripple
lodging
Creek,
tax is
Cripple Creek.
Woodland Park's lodging tax is 5.7%?
Yes. And Colorado Springs, the tourism industry down there, has had, outside of city council meetings, some very strong leadership from both the tourism community and the public to try to propose an increase from 2% to 4% for Colorado Springs.
Did you find out what Woodland Park is paying for the state tax?
No. State tax is separate.
Yeah, I know.
This
What
is
but what does it
lodging
add up?
tax.
What does it add, I know, what does it add up to, Dick? That's all I'm saying.
That's right. Okay, so there's a lot, we're not the only ones that are looking at this. So we can learn from the other community governments in the area, and we'll learn how they're gonna sell it. All of them agreed that you have to show the lodging owners how they're gonna benefit from this increase in lodging tax. So early on, the planning commission took the tack that we will put a fence around the additional money coming in for lodging tax. The fence will say, this money will be used to promote tourism, to improve the town, so that we'll get more income for the lodging owners. So it's an investment by them. But that's one way you start to sell it. We had some narrow focused lodging owners said, well, if we have to add 2% to our bill, we're gonna lose a whole bunch of business. Well, I'm not sure that that's an accurate assessment, because what do you think is the average price for an SDR night lodging? Just off the top
It's a
of your
breakdown between how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms I have.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of a 2-bedroom, 1 bath is $150 a night. 3-bedroom, 2 bath is anywhere from $200 to $225, maybe $175, depending on the condition, what the amenities are. But here's the thing. How do you sell, and you just said the magic word, what's gonna make the guest, the customer, wanna pay that extra tax?
Well,
What,
let's look at it this way.
as a
The
property
customer
manager, I
comes
wanna
in-
make sure that that
customer
2%
comes in
goes to a
And signs the
good cause.
register and says, how much is it? And you say, $250. He doesn't say, well, how much of that is lodging tax?
Oh, yeah, they do. You don't answer the phone, Dick.
Okay. A
I
guy
have
driving,
any other fee.
let's go a step further. A guy driving up 24. Well, honey, I don't know. You wanna stay in Green Mountain Falls? Their lodging tax is up here. Let's go up to Wilding Park. That's even higher. Well, let's go back to Manchester Springs. It's only 2% down there. 2% of $150. How much is it?
I got it.
It's $6.
Sure.
Or 4% would be $6. So if we raise from 2 to 4%, we're gonna tack on an additional $3.
That'll break somebody's
I mean, gosh, are we gonna really lose business if we go $3
I
more?
agree with you, Dick, but it's also,
Okay.
what about the other 8.13% that the state's paying?
That's gonna be there no matter what we do.
Well, okay, so just make sure that that's not gonna affect the,
But in practicality, what the lodging owner's gonna do, he's gonna give the guy a bill, take his credit card, and the guy might look at it when he's on the plane to Chicago and say, geez, the lodging tax was 4% in Green Mountain Falls.
okay.
Oh, bull crap.
Okay, so then, Dick,
Excuse my language.
Dick, you're coming up with this extra 2%.
Yeah.
As a property manager or owner of property, sell me on the fact that that 2% is gonna do.
Okay. The planning commission was very careful in their motion to say that the money should be used to promote tourism, to bring more business into town. By, first of all, putting a listing of all the SDRs on our town website, so people know where they are, where they exist. A good way for the clerk to check, to see if everybody's paying their taxes. There's some side benefits there. Another portion would be used for promotion of the town. One of the SDR owners wrote us a letter back in the 9th of November, said, use the increase, said raise the tax, use the increase to get better advertising on 24, to spruce up the town, our park, poor overworked park, overloved park, is really in the worst shape it's ever been. Use some money to make the park better, make the town a more pleasant
Well,
place.
that's what you're gonna do, you're not raising the taxes enough then.
Well, every bit helps, every bit helps. So,
So,
that's how we, in the discussions with the lodging owners, that came to our, they started, nodding heads, yeah, okay, I'll go for 2% to help fix up the park, to get better publicity, to get tourism promotion, because I can see in the long run, that's gonna help me. So that's some of the techniques that have to be done to sell this. The most onerous thing is if you put anything on the ballot that says tax, boom, so a bunch of people said no.
Automatically.
Without reading this little guide that comes out.
But
So,
we
we're
did,
gonna,
We did a very good job the last time, putting it in perspective of
Yes,
a dollar and cents
yes,
instead of just percentage.
yes, we sold the sales tax increase by hard facts and convincing people it was not a big imposition.
I wanna give you an example of something. The gas prices.
Mhm.
We're at $2.30, $2.32 right now. There was a time last year, the year before, we were up almost to $3.50, $3.68, $4. When you're talking about going on a vacation, and this is where the doomsday sayers come in, when you're talking about going on a vacation, and I agree with you on this, that the fact that the gas prices dropped, or rather went up to $3.50, $3.60, $4, and people are gonna take an average trip of 2,000 miles, because our guests come from Kansas, Nebraska, Texas, so, okay, so there's 2,000 miles. They would only be paying from the gas price rise from $2 to $4, $50 for a vacation.
Yeah.
So you're right, nobody's gonna balk at a 2% increase. I'm just saying, you've gotta sell it.
Yes, I agree.
Well, and I think we need
How
to be.
many years ago did we do the mill levy increase?
2012.
4 years.
Yeah,
4 years, and that was,
Sustainability Committee helped to sell
was
that.
it? I don't know, you know, what the numbers were, when it came down to the vote.
It was a big,
But I know-
big landslide.
But I know it passed,
Yeah,
and it was, you know, it affected a lot more people. You know, a lot more voters were affected by that mill levy increase than by this,
I'm telling you what a
The only
few
other
bucks
time-
difference could make, whether they come or they don't.
The only other time that the town asked taxpayers to raise their taxes was in the 80s. We had a bond issue that paid for the building of the maintenance building
Right.
and took care of most of the drainage in town. And so frankly, we've had exceptionally good luck with selling tax measures to the voters in Green Mountain Falls because we've been extremely honest with them.
Yes,
Tell them exactly what the tax is and exactly where the money's gonna go. When you tell people that money's gonna go here and you put it there, you don't have a problem selling the next one.
well, and I think that may be some of the crux of this conversation is it's easy to say, we're gonna put this into road improvement and park improvement, because those are things that people can see. But when you say we're gonna put it into advertising, it's a much bigger question of, well, what's better advertising? Do we put it in this magazine? Do we put it in that? And I think that's a much harder.
So when I heard the recommendation from planning commission, I promote tourism, improve the town. The first one sounded to me like the function of the Chamber of Commerce.
I agree.
The second one sounded an awful lot like the restrictions placed on us by Conservation Trust. And I'm not necessarily suggesting that we mimic that exactly, although I think it might be a good idea. But the Colorado Revised Statutes 29, 21, 101, subparagraph 4 are the restrictions on how towns must spend Conservation Trust monies. And I'm gonna cut out the part about the state, but all monies received shall be expended only for the acquisition, development, and maintenance of new conservation sites, or for capital improvements or maintenance for recreational purposes on any public site. That sounds like improving the town to me.
yeah, it is. But we only get a pitiful amount of conservation trust money for our parks. It's not enough. We need other sources of funds.
I'm hesitant to create a new administrative encumbrance to track when we have one already laid out for us that lines up.
It's not sufficient to satisfy the requirements.
Well,
If you look at the trends, folks, our income for the town has plateaued, it's level. We're getting about the same amount every year. The cost of everything's going up, and when those two converge, we get in big trouble. You as a board need to figure out ways to generate more income.
I'm not arguing with that, I'm arguing, my discussion point was around what should the Tabor, when we ask the voters, how are we going to spend this money? We are going to spend this money in this way, yes or no? What do we say?
We have to be clever in what we pick. Things that where they think will work.
I don't think clever is the
Buying
word.
ads, magazines may not be the most clever thing to promise.
Well, and that's why I'm saying advertising can be a slippery slope for guaranteeing that that's where money goes. We need to be smart there.
Exactly, I agree with you, Madam Mayor. But one thing, when you promote tourism, there are other ways to do it. You're gonna spruce up your lake, make it look beautiful, make the place a desirable place to visit, and then people will come back. People will come use our trails, tell the lodging owners, we'll be back. We wanna do the rest of the trails.
So like Max said, it's all in the wording of how it's declared on the ballot.
That's right. That's right. Another thing that, one is the STR person that wrote us a letter said, use some of the money that I'm gonna raise for you to have more community events. So that's part of the overall pleasure of living in Green Mountain Falls. And so your regular taxpayers will see a benefit from that too. But we, as lodging owners, will see people coming back as return customers. There are things to do in Green Mountain Falls. Very important.
I would just like to think that of all the vacation rentals we have, I'm not worried so much about lakeside cottages and places like the Outlook Lodge. I'd like to think that if we could collect the 2% from everybody who does have vacation rentals at this point, we wouldn't need to raise the taxes. That's my battle cry.
Right.
I may be speaking as the president of the chamber. Right now, we are working on a grant, $20,000 grant, that will produce, if we win it, will produce a committee, not from within us, who will evaluate the town to help determine what the town needs to make it a vacation destination, okay? That would be working with you guys as far as wanting to know what money's, maybe it is just clean up the lake. Maybe it's, put a gas station in town, or a 7-Eleven, for God's sake. You can't buy an aspirin around here. Little things, or things like that. The chamber is more than willing to work with you as far as, selling a tax increase if we can say to our members that they're going to get more advertising and the like. I mean, how many people drive past Green Mountain Falls because they missed the sign, these letters are only this big,
That's not how we do business, Michael. We do business with the internet mostly.
Well, I understand that.
People just don't drive by and say, oh, I'm gonna go in here and see, because they won't happen, they won't get a place to stay.
Well,
This is the height of the season.
but they could have there's no sign for restaurants, there's no sign for fishing, there's no sign for
I think,
any of the other amenities.
And the chamber is working on that. Nan Stevens, our secretary of the chamber, is working with CDOT and has been making progress in getting more signage for the town up on 24.
but as much as signage, Tyler and I met with Colorado Springs Convention and Visitors Bureau, and they have this great publication that goes out, and it's all accessible online, and we are not mentioned. And I think that's something that, they said they would work with our chamber to make it better for all of us in UPass.
When did you go to that? Because I just went to it.
It was just a couple of months ago,
What was it, it's 250,000 issues there sometime or something?
right?
I had a dentist appointment last week, and sitting in a chair talking to the dentist, and she asked me where I live. I've been to this dentist for a year and a half. I said, live in Green Mountain Falls. She said, where's that? Yeah, I said, well, it's kind of on the way to Woodland Park. Oh, been to Woodland Park? Well, it is one of those places where if you blink, you miss it. It's not on the highway, it's off the highway. But that is what gives it the charm it has. The other thing is that I went to a party yesterday, met some people, a couple of families that I've done work for over the years. And they're all working on the third and fourth generation of their family. that comes to Green Mountain Falls. And all of them are looking for other places to buy in Green Mountain Falls because they can't schedule
Right.
the home place anymore because there's just too many people in their family. So they're all, as a matter of fact, I helped the gal buy a place on Falls Avenue, this spring, because she had to have a place in Green Mountain Falls. There are numerous people who are doing just that. People with families that their kids have had kids, and now their grandkids are having kids. I mean, they're all over the place. And they're looking for another place to buy in Green Mountain Falls. It would, be nice if we could have a low-rise apartment building, a complex, but that, I doubt whether that's gonna happen. The point is that people are looking for places to buy in Green Mountain Falls because they like to come here with their family. They come here for generations, all summer long with their families, and they wanna continue to do that.
So there's never been a problem with tourism in this little town, is there? No, so why are we, yeah, okay. Rest of the case.
Well, as far as sorry, Lisa.
Oh, I just have something I was gonna read, because I'm not a very good public speaker, but, I'm a short-term rental owner, and I'm new to this, and I have several concerns regarding the increase in the taxes. When the planning commission first brought this recommendation to the board of trustees on February 2nd, 2016, per that night's agenda on the town website, it read that, like Dick had said, adding and maintaining a list of short-term rentals to the new town website, tourism promotion, town beautification. And in regards to this funding, a short-term rental segment on the town website, I don't feel that it would be effective nor necessary. Renters look to sites such as VRBO or Airbnb. Short-term rental owners already pay these sites for that service. And regarding tourism promotion, is doing anything further than what's already being done by organizations such as the Chamber of Commerce or Greenbox necessary? Could tourism promotion even realistically be implemented by our town government? Is that your job? Or will the funds just be placed in the general fund? This proposed tax money being placed in the general fund was not the original intent of the planning commissioners per the February 2nd agenda. If that is the case, should the planning commission continue this request for the tax increase? And no doubt our town needs further beautification, but to place this burden on short-term rentals is risky. My competitors are rentals in Ute Pass, Cascade, Chipeta Park, and Green Mountain Falls. Currently, Cascade and Chipeta Park renters are paying 5%, only half of what Green Mountain Falls renters pay. Investors considering purchasing a vacation rental in Ute Pass would do well to consider Cascade or Chipeta Park over Green Mountain Falls. The possibility of another 2% tax makes it even more advantageous to invest in Cascade or Chipeta Park. And the obvious, when a renter's money is spent on increased taxes, it leaves less money to spend on my rental, area tourism, or local restaurants. There is the sentiment by some in this community who are in favor of a tax increase that short-term rentals are a burden to this town. I believe the opposite is true. I believe that short-term rentals are an asset to our town for many reasons. Owners must keep their property in excellent shape or risk a bad review. 2, vacationers spend their vacation dollars in our town's restaurants. And 3, renters are already paying that hefty tax to Green Mountain Falls. And if we did collect the taxes that we need, like David said, I think maybe we'd be okay. And 4, in my experience, renters have been respectful and leave our sweet town becoming promoters or even landowners in Green Mountain Falls. I have seen no evidence of an increase in law enforcement because of short-term rentals. Increasing taxes on short-term rentals may seem to be a quick fix for budget shortfalls, but the long-term economic ramifications of doing this must be seriously considered.
Thank you all for your service to our
Thank you.
town and your time, and now your consideration of this measure. I hope you vote no to bringing the short-term rental tax to the voters of Gmf Bot.
That's it.
Back in January, when this subject came up, in planning commission, I went to vrbo.com, which is a huge site where you can book lodging any place in the United States through this booking agency. And I clicked on Green Mountain Falls and I was amazed. I would encourage you all to take a few minutes, go to vrbo.com, click on Green Mountain Falls and see what's in front of you. It's a very attractive site. They have a little map that shows you where the property is in Green Mountain Falls. They have numerous photographs and the narratives are excellent. They also have reviews from people who've stayed there. And they say a lot of really good things about Green Mountain Falls. It's fun to read. And like Max said, families are getting larger, more generations are coming back to Green Mountain Falls. And one family wrote a review on Frank Borelli's place on Bellevue. He's got several buildings there. And this family that stayed there said, well, we've been coming to Green Mountain Falls every summer to our small family cabin. I forget where it was, up on Pine or someplace. And says, we just had too many people come at the same time. So we went to the VRBO site, found Borelli's place, and we had a wonderful time. 2 parents and 2 kids stayed at Borelli's place, the rest stayed in the family cabin. And they were close enough that they could all enjoy Green Mountain Falls together. So there's an increasing demand for lodging in Green Mountain Falls. It's growing.
Are they demanding that we raise the tax to 2%?
No,
Okay, I'm just saying.
They probably won't squawk if you do.
Mike,
that's a good point. David, a family that's paying $250 a night is not gonna bitch about an additional $3.
I agree.
They're not going to.
I agree. I'm just
And that's
concerned-
been blown way out of
I'm
proportion.
just concerned with.
Gonna ruin our competition. We're gonna drive us out of business. Bull crap.
So if $50 of gas difference is gonna make a difference to somebody
Yeah.
taking a trip, then $2.50 or $3 could do a lot of damage too, but that's not just one night.
But
Weekly
they're not the
stays.
kind of people that are staying in our lodging here. They're
Mike,
not.
My comment is, if you put all of the short-term rentals on the town website, I would suggest that then all the businesses are gonna be wanting to have equal time on the town website. I would suggest that you pass them off to the chamber site where we're specifically set up to handle that tourism. We link to the VRBO sites, like, so it would just be a pass-through. It would save the clerk a hell of a lot of time, trying to update and the like. So, don't necessarily encumber the town site when you can pass it off to somebody who's in charge of commerce or whose job is the commerce.
I agree with that. I think we've already talked about, and I think are moving towards posting a list of business licensees, regardless of whether it's a short-term rental business or an accounting business or whatever, on our site. But that's a little bit different than promoting those businesses, which I think the chamber would do much better.
then it should.
And we want to. We're working very hard.
Catherine.
I don't know if I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but I think that, I've had a sense that the town's financial situation was iffy. And that I haven't been real happy about the way funds have been spent. I don't know how many other people feel that way, but if this could easily look like a Band-Aid on poor management. And I'm not, pointing a finger at this board. I really appreciate, information like this that we can all easily read And, and I do see that, Public Works, the parks, roads, those kinds of things, do look like they've been, neglected. And, I just think it could be a perception that it has to do with the way funds are spent rather than the lack of funds. And I just don't know how I guess what I'm thinking is that I'm just wondering about the timing of this, in particular.
That makes sense. If there are no further comments,
Well, I had a couple questions. Renee, can you just confirm the timeline? July 29th is the date we have to confirm our participation in the election, but we don't have to have the Tabor question worded by then, right?
Correct. So, along with that letter was a questionnaire that they asked to be filled out and sent back to them for contact and whatnot.
And it's just a yes, are you participating on a
Right.
tax question, yes or no?
Mhm.
Do you remember the date for the actual table?
September 23rd,
I think it's September, I know it's September, I don't know the exact.
Okay. And then the second question is, do we have to coordinate with Teller County as well in an identical fashion, another, two separate IGAs? Okay.
I would assume,
and they have a cost as well,
I would assume,
if you would
At a timely,
I
ask
can
that
find out
question,
what it would be with Teller County.
please, if you would.
I always forget there's 25 little houses.
Isn't there additional costs to get it on?
That's
There?
what we were just asking.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
So we need to find that out as well. Since it is a workshop, there is not a vote on this tonight. We won't be making the decision. But it was an opportunity for us to get more information from the public. Any further comments? Seeing none, I will close this workshop at 8:23 and reconvene our regular meeting. Number 5, old business, administration job search update.
no, I don't. I was just saying about it.
Sorry, I was reading on the previous. So there's not a lot right now, but we've talked with Clay Brown. He has given us some options, or an option of somebody that he would recommend and the potential salary that may go with it. It's a little bit more than we were anticipating for the number of hours available
As an intern.
as an interim.
On a contract basis.
On a contract basis, not a town employee, but as a contract. So, Cameron reminded me the next steps that Clay was going to do.
He was going to see if there was an administrative grant opportunity available from DOLA for matching funds, separate from the grant opportunity we talked about before. And it sounded like he had approval to pursue that. It hasn't been awarded or even technically applied for, but he has approval to pursue that on our behalf. So I really think what we need to do is tee up another admin committee meeting with Clay's participation and tee up a board action item for the next board meeting on the 19th. I don't think we have anything actionable at this point. There's a lot of great ideas that are 90% of the way to being a real thing.
And some of it is contingent upon whether him going after this money, he can find it.
Right.
So.
Okay. So I think that looks like your next step is,
So we need to set a date for that. And
But and probably even ahead of that, it'd probably be helpful for that committee to get a head nod or consent from this board that, yeah, let's go in this direction, flesh it out a little bit more. We're receptive to hearing a proposal like this.
Yeah.
Is that a motion?
No.
Okay, we'd second that. Board, any further discussion? All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes to instruct the committee.
So, so what would y'all like? Do you want to hear what?
I'm sorry,
We're indicating to the committees that we are receptive to
Right.
hearing a proposal about the interim town
Flesh
manager,
out.
how that might look. So that the committee's not proposing something that this board is, you know, gonna say, what? What are you doing that for?
I know.
Madam Mayor, the press and I were trying to write down the motion was made. Well, we couldn't write any words. What exactly was the motion the clerk's gonna record that was made and seconded? What was the motion? Could whoever, the maker, please restate his motion so we can write it down?
It was very similar to the comments I just made, in that this board is receptive to hearing from the committee a fleshed out proposal involving an interim town manager.
That's not a motion.
Sure is.
Yes, he
Instruction
instructed
to the committee to produce a proposal to the board.
This board is receptive to the,
He instructed the committee to bring forth a proposal for
okay.
more details for the town administrator.
On your meeting on the 18th or 19th.
So I would ask Dick and Mac, and this is all depending on whether Clay is available, if we could meet on the 18th at, which is a Monday. At,
Matt's not available.
are you available?
Yeah, what day?
The 18th? And
Yes,
also the
yes.
19th. This is, so Clay's gonna be the hinge here.
Right.
On whether he's available, so, how about the 19th?
He'll be gone from what, the 15th?
15th to the 19th, I'd be back on the 19th.
Yeah, go.
The 19th is town board meeting.
Yeah. So that would, it would have to be before,
Okay, availability this week?
I know, I leave from here and leave for Denver. So we'll check with Clay for the 18th and 19th and as the next available dates.
And we'll post that as a workshop meeting
Okay.
or something.
Yeah. If that is good with you, that we could make a date, and post it to whenever it's available.
We still haven't confirmed the date, but
It's
when
fine.
it's confirmed, we'll post it.
All right, I'll still be setting the date, and item B is the Marshall job search update. The posting job closed for the Marshall on June 30th. We've received between 7 and 9 applications. I think we've gotten 9. I think we're pretty close to that. You know, the number's not in the hundreds, but we only need one if it's the right one. So we need to look at dates for that too, but first I need to get a hold of Sean Ives and make sure he can meet. I think with that number, we should probably look at all the applications, see if we can narrow it down to possibly 5 for phone interviews. So I will be sending out proposed dates. It's not conversational because that would be breaking sunshine law, but we'll put out some dates that we can get the majority of the committee together to read those applications. In the meantime, Renee does have copies of them here. I made sure she got every copy. And I am not adverse to you coming in ahead of time and looking at them. Okay? And that's all I have on that. Item 6 is public input for items not listed on the agenda. If you have anything you would like to bring up, please approach the podium, state your name and your address for the record.
Mike Holman, I'm from Cascade. What I'm here representing this time is Bronte. We are we're adding a pie contest. And we're inviting everybody to enter. There's challenges between entrants. There'll be 4 judges, and I'm just trying to get the word out that this pie contest is something new. We expect it to be wonderful. That's to be determined.
It depends on the quality.
And other qualities and how well it's received. Anyway, there'll be 4 judges. As it stands right now, we're looking for judges. And then each piece will be sold as for $1. The monies will be to help finance next Bronte, and then if there's extra funds, we'll give to the food banks. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further public input? All right.
Well,
Oh, Catherine, I didn't see you, sorry.
I wasn't planning, but it's, since you brought up Bronte, I'm Catherine Guthrie, 2500 Washington Avenue. And we've added dance to on Bronte. That'll be at Sally Bush from 7 to 10. So we're reviving that tradition. And we haven't started promoting it yet, but well, I guess I just did.
All right, thank you.
Could I ask, has anybody been able to get a hold of Mr. Hubschman? The last couple of emails I got, somebody asked me, or it was asked to everyone who got the email that they would contact him. I don't have his email. I don't know if anybody else has.
I have his email and I've been sending him emails, but I don't get any response. So I will give him a call if I don't hear from him on the email. Make sure he knows that he can serve on the committee with us if he so chooses.
He was having issues with his computer the last time he came into town hall. So.
Well, I'll give him a call. Make sure that he's there. All right. Item 7, correspondence. This is the PC draft minutes of June 28, 2016. Ordinarily, we just say, yes, we'll put these on the agenda, but there's a question that the board needs to consider in conjunction with these draft minutes. Regarding the Dewey Mountain Trail extension, this was asked by Willie Alexander for me to put probably on the next board meeting. Yes, would I please ask the board if a special use permit is required for the section of the trail that will be on the residentially zoned lot? Mr. Alexander feels strongly that because it is residentially zoned, that it is a non-conforming use and should have a special use permit. And he would like the board to consider this. And since this is in conjunction with the minutes, I would like this to be on the next agenda to consider this for this and for future trails that are non-conforming.
By the way, the town attorney already ruled on that about a year ago, saying that a special use permit is not required for a trail across private property. And I have copies of that letter. I'll be glad to provide to you.
Please bring it.
Yes.
I will also ask the attorney and let's make sure for the record that everyone's on the same page with special use permit in regards to this question. Before we go to reports, we did receive another letter, and this is from Gail Garrick at 0 Scott Avenue, and she asked if I would please read this. So not only is it in your packet, but she would like it recorded into the minutes of tonight's meeting. Nothing needs to be answered at this time. There's no votes necessary. This is just correspondence, so everyone knows. She asked, did I read this? And the next paragraph begins. The official minutes of September 2nd, 2014 included a maintenance report of August 1st, 2014, titled GMF Assets to be Sold or Scrapped. The number 1 item states, number 1, 1981 F700 diesel water truck not usable for our application, end quote. On that same date, there was a maintenance report on Mayor Worthy's website. It was titled, quote, Town of GMF Maintenance Report, August 30, 2014. Number one item is one, sold the F-700 water truck for $2,000. Now it has been disclosed that a water truck is a necessity for developing an appropriate road base, and the water truck must be rented. The water truck that was sold is now up for sale again for $5,900. My questions, that is Gail's questions, are for trustees Stevens, Cook, Quinn, and Butts. Number one, why was the town water truck deemed not usable for application when it was successfully used for years? Number two, who authorized the sale of the water truck? Number three, who determined the sale price? Number four, who was the town's representative at the time of the sale? The sale of the water truck appears to have been a very poor decision by the previous board, which once again impacts the budget and taxpayers. Thank you, Gail Garrett. Number 8, we did add reports onto this agenda. And the reason I added it on there is because I wanted to add a report for something I received that we need to put on a future agenda. Representative Terry Carver was invited by the Colorado Wildfire Matters Interim Committee, and she did a site visit with them in Teller and El Paso County. She did that this last week. And she received the agenda very late, and so I received it much later, and I couldn't attend with her. With that being said, she said, I will note the current federal, state, and local wildfire mitigation initiatives. Wildfire and flood mitigation are top priorities. I would like to meet with the town council on wildfire and flooding issues in August or September. And I think we should, and I think it's a good opportunity for us. And I would like to see this get on the agenda in August or September. So, you know, that's my report on that. Any further comments from?
I would like to, something for a future meeting is the creating a policy regarding gazebo rental reimbursements when those are needed.
I agree, that is something we need to revisit. So that goes on a future agenda. What are we forgetting?
So we're going to have a, I guess my next thing is a question of what are the next steps with this audit? So we have a draft audit. At some point we have to approve it, and then we also have to approve the fees that go with it, and which will probably require a budget amendment for that. But I don't know when, do we approve at the next meeting? Yes.
I think we would approve at the next meeting. They said that the final report would be here for us. They really can't change
Right.
anything on us, so we know what's being presented. So I would say that would be probably the meat of the next
It
meeting.
has to be July 19th because it has to be submitted to the state by the 30th.
So that's the one, we're voting on it then. I did receive a phone call that the board, and everyone should be interested in. Our former forester would like to submit a proposal for next year, and hopefully for a little bit at the end of this year, just to talk about the health of our trees. She'd like to give a presentation to the town about pine beetles. That would be, that presentation would be at no charge, and then she'd like to look into getting some grants written for planting young trees to replace some of the old trees that are gonna have to come down sooner or later. So we're going to need to look at that for the future budget, but also in the near future, just for some help with our parks and our forests. All right. Renee has something.
I do, I'm sorry. Just a reminder that from July 23rd through August 7th, I will not be here. I will be on vacation. So we have to determine what we're going to do at town hall. I will not be here for the August 2nd Board of Trustees meeting or July 28th PC meeting.
Okay.
And then we had an issue with scheduling with the pool, but I received your note saying that you and Melissa would be helping fill in on July 17th, and then the week that we had concerns about hours.
And also, there was a young woman at the pool yesterday who said she was going to come and apply for a lifeguard job.
She did not come today,
Okay.
so, I'm waiting for her to come.
Well, we can fill in, so there shouldn't be a question about having safety at the pool. Also, I don't know, Cameron mentioned it briefly, I would like to mention it again. Jim Van Scoten has stepped up and has been helping Michael with the roads, and it is a very nice.
I've had people actually come up and compliment,
Yes.
Jim for his work.
So,
Signed Jim.
sign the road. If we have no further comments, this meeting is adjourned at 8:41.
I just want to ask, sorry, I know it's none of my business.
You can ask, though.
I know it's on my side.
Yeah. That's for